Hello everybody, welcome back to Wolfeei. Today is day number 16. Let me check just to make sure. Yes, day number 16 of daily December. Today is a double upload day. If you didn't already see, I already uploaded today talking about the Illumina situation. If you're confused at all by what that is about, go watch the video. I pinned a comment from one of you guys, which summarized it very shortly in nicer words that aren't that triggering for some of you who might have problems with that. I want to, I want to take care of you all and not, say words that might trigger people. Anyways, the point of this video is I didn't want to just have a negative video as the daily December upload, so we're doing 2 uploads today. The Illumina one is not daily December. Today is daily December, day number 16. Today also, it's taken me a minute to talk about what we're doing. Talking about MCC Season 4 predictions from you guys, or from the community rather. I mean, I don't know how much the Wolfeei viewers are overlapping with the MCC Redditors, but we're looking at the Reddit, and their predictions for Season 4. My predictions for MCC Season 4 will come soon, probably start of next week, somewhere around that time. I want to, I want to try to prepare for that video and try to actually make notes and know what I'm talking about, because I have an idea of what could happen. I also don't want to predict too much because I do happen to know the Noxer and Scott, so I don't want to, get into hot water. So anyways, regardless, today we're going to be looking at the community's predictions for MCC Season 4. I took 4 posts, I did a little bit of research to find these posts, and we're going to see if there's a trend that people, have in their feedback, and we're just going to take a while, so sit back, grab a snack, just going to be looking at people's posts. Let me turn the music down a little bit so I can actually use my brain. Starting off with this post by Romeo, don't know how to pronounce that. My ideas for MCC Season 4. This post may be a bit long, but I hope you guys understand. Write in the comments on what you want for the next season. After watching the last MCC for this year, which by the way is the last MCC of Season 3, I started to think back on the events and came to the conclusion, like many others on the Reddit, the events hasn't been as much fun or unique like the last season for different reasons. So in this post I want to explain more, some changes as well as something they should add to the next season. So basically what they're saying is, after last event, them and many others were reflecting on Season 3, and they felt like the event hasn't been as, interesting for them as it was previously. Which I think makes sense regardless of what Noxtrew and Scott, etc. would have done, unless they went fully all out, trying to, crank out like 3 new games, make sure that like there's like a bunch of really big popular creators every event, which is super unrealistic. I think regardless of what they would have done, this conclusion would have happened where people are like, wow, maybe after watching MCC for like 40 events in a row, maybe things are getting, not as interesting. And that's normal. That's nobody's fault. That's just what happens with something existing for a while, and being something like a Minecraft event where change is expected. And anyways, moving on. The first point that they said, so this is a very big indicator of what people's first thing that comes to mind is new players. So what they say is, as we have seen during this season, there haven't been as many newcomers as the last season for different reasons. What this has led to is that the event has become very stale because the same players are playing every event. Some players that played before have left as well and don't play anymore, which means that the roster at the moment isn't as big as it once was. This means that we need new players added, so it brings some new faces and fans to the event, as well as new communities connecting together with an example being the Lifesteal SMP. I think this, I did look at these posts already as well. It's a very common opinion. People want to see new players. The roster is getting stale, and that's not the players in the event's fault. It's not really Scott's fault either. It's just something that happens when something has been running for such a long time, where people want to see some new faces. People want to see some fresh new faces. They don't want a person who is already part of a group that's very well represented. For example, what previously was an issue, the Dream SMP. Beforehand, you'd get a Dream SMP member added, and it's great. Like individually as a person, cool that they get to play, but it's from the same. You're grabbing from the same group of people essentially, and it's like, doesn't really do much for the roster. So I do agree, an ad like someone from the wishlist would be great for the event. However, it is much easier said than done to include people like that into MCC, because MCC's roster is so cohesive, where it is essentially just a friend event that happens to be very popular in terms of streamers, but it plays like a friend event. Like, it's not as if, or at least most people in the roster are pretty familiar with each other, as opposed to something like Block Wars, where it's rare for someone to know everyone in the roster. Even I, the organizer, don't really know everyone in the roster. So, it's a much more mixed bag for Block Wars, which makes things more interesting in terms of uniqueness, but it also makes things more complicated in terms of team differential, using the same players. Like, if Block Wars has a situation where we get, like, the same amount of signups every single event, and it's like 45 people, we aren't going to have that much wiggle room for unique teams, whereas MCC has a bit more freedom, or Scott rather, has a bit more freedom in that, if that makes any sense. So, someone like a Lifestyle Speed member, as much as they probably know a handful of people in the event, they are much harder to put onto a team without being paired with someone they already know very well, regardless of if that person cares to be put on a team with new people. It's something that I also often see people misconstruct, I guess, in their head, is that if someone's willing to team with a lot of people, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are easy to put on a team. It makes it easier to consider them for teams, but you also have to look at the other perspective. If you, for example, you have you just make like a group of 4 people that isn't necessarily a group of 4 people that signed up together, would this 5th edition make sense, or would they kind of be an outlier? It's hard, right? It's hard to think about, and this is why team making is a skill which people also often don't realize is actually really difficult. We've seen it in many other events, and we've seen it with MCC and Block Wars, where after years of experience, you can tell that the people who run the team making, and I am definitely praising myself a lot here, know what they're doing. we have developed, and Scott especially is a very good example. Scott understands his players, and it's very apparent in the teams, because like 95% of the teams work pretty well. Obviously, there's occasionally a team that's a bit experimental and it turns out to not work super well, but it's not as if that leads to massive drama for the most part, right? Either way, newcomers, big thing that should be looked into. Future posts that we look at in this video will also get into newcomers. I just wanted to mention it early on. Second point they make is less non-canon events. Something that we have seen this season is that there have been many non-canon events. This, in my opinion, has led to the non-canons being a bit boring, as it before was the thing that many people were really excited about. For example, MCC All-Stars, because they weren't as often. I disagree with this one. I think the non-canons are really good. Here's why. MCC is no longer a for fun event. Whether you like it or not, it has become a pretty competitive event. At least the regular events, like the numbered ones, right? Like an MCC 35, 34, whatever. They are competitive events because there is a prize on the line, and the rosters are just built with stronger players, where there is competition that people want to face. For example, someone like a Purpled wants to make sure that he's number 1 individually and also wants his team to do well. Same with Shane, same with Fruitberries, same with whoever, right? This applies to a lot of people, that they want to do well, and thus things are competitive. Even if none of the people in MCC were to care about winning, if you just have 10 S tiers, 1 on every team, 10 A tiers, whatever you want to call it, right? If you have strongly built teams, you're going to run into an issue where things are going to feel high comp, and lower tier players or more for fun oriented players just are not going to be as interested. This is very big and apparent in older Block Wars creator events. Like I would say roughly like between like Block Wars 2 and like 6-ish time, it was very apparent that like, because the rosters were so strong, some of the weaker players that were introduced weren't as like excited to hop back into the roster, or play another event immediately, for the most part. Some of them did, and most of them did not. That's why we had so many newcomers. If you didn't see my upload from yesterday, the Block Wars recap, Go take a look at it. It's pretty interesting. But we had a lot of newcomers in Block Wars, so that's a way to compare, right? Either way, non-canon events are very important for MCC because it's their opportunity to introduce new people to the event very easily without having the repercussions of like filling up slots of their main events. And or it's their opportunity to bring high viewership players who are more for fun oriented into the roster as well. We've seen this very successfully with things like Pride and Underdogs, which went just phenomenally well. And I hope that in 2024 that continues, because I think that's some of the more exciting highlight moments of MCC in general across all events. Those are, for me personally, the ones that I really look forward to. Like Underdogs, I have very fond memories of. It's probably, not even probably, it is most certainly my favorite MCC in recent history. I would say I could not really tell you an event that I think was cooler. I really like Underdogs. Obviously, there's a lot of things that were appealing to me in that, like Shane being added to the event for the first time, like people like Disguised Toast and etc. Playing in the event. Like it was just so nicely built. But yeah, anyways. Non-canon events, very valuable. I do understand that having back-to-back non-canon events isn't a great idea, but that's not what they mentioned. But I do agree with that. I think having Twitch Rivals lead into Party was just coincidental, obviously, but that wasn't super great. It would have been nice if there was something in between, but that's fine. I mean, I completely understand why they did what they did. Moving on. Third point they make, maybe a new game. Like with players, the games have become a bit stale as well, as there aren't as many games that gets played anymore. At the moment, there's 14 games, but 2 of them never gets played, SG and BuildMart, which means that 2 games get benched every event and the same games gets played. That's not true. If there's 14 games, and then 2 of them, so it's 12 games, there's 9 games of rotation, so that'd be 3, right? There's 3 games benched every single time. But their point is there needs to be a new game. I agree. I do wholeheartedly agree. 1 second, let me take a sip of water. Okay, so I think there should be a new game added to MCC. I assume they will be on break for Q1 of 2024. So hopefully in Q2 of 2024, which means April to June, I think ish range. Hopefully they'll have something new, because as unfortunate as it is, the MCC games are getting stale. Regardless of how high the quality of your event is, if it's the same thing, it's eventually probably not going to be that, interesting. And Block Wars will have this too, probably in a year, or a year or two. The games that we currently have, if we weren't to change them much over time, or develop them, or whatever, people might get tired of them. And that's totally understandable. That makes sense, right? So I think a new game being added to MCC would be quite nice. And also, what it allows them to do is it allows them to take more games out of rotation to just have very unique rosters, and they could actually pair this with Scott as well for their events. Is what they could do is they could have a very movement heavy roster where it's like 6 movement games, right? And they could have a very movement heavy competitive player roster as well for like an MCC like 38, for example, right? Just one of the numbered regular events that are competitively focused. They could have a very movement heavy roster and a very heavy movement heavy game pool, and it could create such an interesting event to watch for all the die-hard hardcore fans of MCC. I don't think it would attract many people to have like a super movement heavy roster, whether that's teams or games, because from an outsider perspective, all that the outsiders will care about is new content or new players. But I still think it'd be interesting for the hardcore fans, right? You want to have an equilibrium between what the fans want, or the diehard fans want, and then what the more casual fans want, which is why there's non-canons and canon events, if that makes any sense, right? Anyways, new game, I agree. What would that new game be? Which type of new game would it be? Would it be a team game? Would it be a movement game? Would it be a miscellaneous game? Or would it be a PvP game? I'm not sure. I think MCC would not... I think they wouldn't do a movement game next. That wouldn't really make sense. A team game, they have recently reintroduced bingo. I think it wouldn't be a team game either. So I assume the next game, if there is a new game planned, will probably be PvP or miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is something like a spleef or a I mean, in terms of blockwars, I know pretty well what they would be. Spleef is a miscellaneous game. That's very common. Anything that doesn't require hardcore or mechanical parkour, mechanical PvP, or simply based on teamwork would be a miscellaneous game. Basically just a random game, like a party game, etc., right? Anyways, moving on from that as well. Their fourth point and final point is less events each year/month. Something I also noticed this season compared to the other seasons is the amount of events played. Back in Season 1 and 2, I always got excited when they introduced a new event, and it had been some time since the last event. Compared to this season, I felt that the excitement wasn't there, as the event before were closer to the next. It's maybe a bit weird of a take, I know, haha. I can understand this. Now, I, personally, considering I make Wolfeei Mogul Mail videos, I don't mind them hosting an event every 3 weeks, because it gives me more stuff to talk about. However, I completely understand that an event every 3 weeks can be a little bit much, and doing an event every month does feel like it would be more unique. Obviously, a week difference won't be too big, but it would make sense. It does make sense that things would feel a bit more unique if events were spread out a bit more. Let me skip stall real quick. All right, there we go. Let me also skip this real quick. Okay. So yeah, I do agree. Less events would be nice, but there's a reason they host a lot of events. Whether that is because they can, whether that is because they should or want to, who knows? But there's probably a valid reason for it. So I would understand if they don't slow down on events. I would be surprised if they sped up the amount of events. But I don't know. We'll see. Thoughts on the ideas? Write in the comments. I think a lot of these make sense in terms of your wishes or your ideas from Season 4. I think half of them will happen. I would be surprised if all 4 of these points were touched upon. I think that would be good for the event, though. I think a lot of people would really appreciate it if they just took a step back, did some more work on internal stuff and new game stuff, etc. during a break, then came back with monthly events. Maybe at the beginning they can do like a couple events a little bit quicker. They could do like, let's say they do April, then they do May, they do another one in May, then they do Pride, or they do 2 in June, where one is at the start, one is at the end, or there's whatever, right? You get what I mean? They could start quickly, and then they should slow down over the time in the year to spread it out the events and give themselves a bit more time to catch up on new content, and then heading into the break and etc. Things might look a lot brighter and a lot more possible in terms of workload, because I know that events do take a lot of effort to work on. I would know because I work on events. Anyways, that is the first post. Already almost spent 20 minutes on this. Moving on. Wishlist for Season 4. Honestly, I would like to see some new players. The amount of new players, or the amount of players that have stopped playing or on and off. I feel like Season 4 will have to have newcomers. That is very true. It is essential that there are newcomers for Season 4. But, it is yet again much easier said than done who should be added to the event. I will discuss this probably sometime soon in a Mogul Mail, maybe in my Season 4 prediction video. But adding even one really good player like Curryway, like myself, like Feinberg, would have a lot of effect on the roster, and it would either mean that one current top player gets frequently benched, or that this newcomer wouldn't get in as much. And both of those options are a little messed up, if that makes any sense. Or third option, which is the worst option, I would say, out of the 3, is that both of them would get to play frequently, and then the competitiveness and skill level of the event gets like very quickly raised again, which would not be good for the event. So we'll see. We'll see who they add. There's a couple people I could think of that would fit in MCC, that have shown interest in MCC, but I don't know how frequently they would sign up, because I don't know what type of how attached they are to Minecraft, And it's mostly the people who are really attached to Minecraft that they're the ones that decide to sign up frequently. This applies to Block Wars for the most part as well, with a few exceptions, but I think that's because we've managed to keep our skill level, at least recently, a lot lower. So it just works pretty well. People that you could think of is someone like Sleepy, who's obviously stuck with Block Wars for pretty much since the first creator event, and then some recently Joe Bartolozzi being a addition as well. I will already answer this now. Do I think Sleepy and Joe Bart should be added to MCC? No. Unless they really want to. But I don't think that they fit the MCC formula super well. Obviously, Joe would be cool because he's a large streamer, but I don't think he fits into the MCC theme, I guess, if that makes any sense. MCC is very Minecrafty Minecrafters type of event. That's why Hermitcraft is so prominent. And that's why like SMP players are very prominent. Something like Block Wars is more for the variety people. That's why they stick to Block Wars. But if they want to play an MCC, hey, fine by me. I think it'd be cool. I just don't think it would make sense, if that makes any sense, right? That's my take on that. Then here's some people's feedback on that. My wish list is to have Rendog return. I miss my dog, man. I don't know what's up with Rendog. I heard, not from a player or anything, I heard from the community somewhere that Rendog was apparently interested in returning, but it's complicated for him to return. I don't know if that is true, but I would say vouch for Rendog to play, to be a consistent player again, if possible. I think that would be quite nice. Pearl and Kara win, more build mart, love to see Ren return, Joel Shane team up. These are all things I would expect to happen probably over time, unless Pearl doesn't play, but I feel like she would. Give me Mumbo and Wolfeei, I'll be happy. Hey, I'm just saying, if MCC 36 returning event, you know, they throw in Mumbo Jumbo, that would be huge. I think, you know, if I were to be on the first returning event, that would make sense. It'd be kind of a Shane moment, right? Like season 3, where the first event, MCC 29, I think, of season 3. They had Shane as the sole quote-unquote newcomer. He had already played in Underdogs, but I would still consider him a newcomer. That would have, you know, that would be pretty cool. I think that'd be a good thing. However, I don't think that will happen. I think it's more likely, and I think it also should be prioritized to get someone like Kuriwa in. And I think there should be more newcomers for the first event. I feel like they should have like, there should be like 4, maybe like, yeah, like 3, 4, or 5, somewhere in that range. I think should be the amount of newcomers for the returning MCC event, unless signups are very active and a lot of the OGs or some of the more non-canon focused people decide to sign up. But that is unpredictable. I don't know if that would happen. Hopefully in the newcomers we cover more areas of Minecraft. I want a lot of the Rising players to get in, so we can have people from Lifesteal or who play on hardcore worlds. I think that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, some of the Rising players getting added would be nice. I don't know who would be the most effective newcomers, I guess, from Rising. I'm assuming we're talking about Rising 2. Rising 1 doesn't really have players left that I think would be super great additions to the event now. The main ones that I could think of right now are like Nestor and maybe Speed Silver, but they would be really good players, and I think there's other good players who should be prioritized. So in terms of Rising 2, I think there's obviously the pink team that people really like. That would make sense, since they are pretty well connected in terms of SMPs to a lot of the players. The Lifestealers would be cool if they were given a chance. However, I don't know how much sense that would make, because let me think. That would be what, 4C, Mid Mystic, J-Horse, and Allrich. I'm not familiar with J-Horse or Allrich that much, so I don't really know who they know. Mid Mystic, I think, knows a couple of people, maybe more now because of Rising. And 4C would also be a roughly similar situation to Mid Mystic, maybe slightly less connections because they are more recent. But I don't know how much sense that would make for them to join. It would be cool, though, for a different community. But the issue is, if they are the lifesteal rep who's picked to be the first one in main MCC, the community would immediately say, "Where's Radoons? Where's insert other lifesteal member?" I was gonna say Parker, but he's not in lifesteal anymore, I think. So Radoons, I guess, is the front runner right now. Where's Radoons? Give us Radoons! And then you have the issue again where you loop back. Well, Radoons is also a good player, but shouldn't blah 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 other people be added first? You know, it's just complicated. That's why it's so much easier said than done to talk about newcomers. And Scott should not really be blamed for the lack of newcomer additions, because it's just harder. If you look at early season, not even early season 3, I would already say that newcomer additions were getting difficult. I'd say, well, I mean, they added a bunch of newcomers at the same time, but they had the whole Spanish thing. That was essentially just a freebie to newcomer additions with Gato and Ollie, who happened to be super good for the event. Either way, if you look at like season 2B, I think that's a bit more fair, which is 2 years ago. Newcomer additions were so much easier than they are now. I mean, you had community requested newcomers who weren't like S tier top players, who just made so much sense. Like, even if the community wasn't asking for them, you'd already expect them to be added, like an Ant Venom, like Hannah XX Rose type of situation, right? Those are the main ones I could think of. Now the issue is the most front-running requested newcomers are probably Curryway, me, Feinberg. And then the other newcomers that people really want are the people who are harder to get into the event, especially consistently, like a Small Ant, like a Mumbo Jumbo, who is going to be, like, I don't even know if there's a chance for Mumbo to get in, but it'd be so cool. If anything, it'd have to be like an Etho situation, where if it helps, Mumbo should be given like a really strong team. Pretty much run back to Etho team, or something similar like that. Anyways, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, newcomer additions are just harder. So picking people from outsider communities like lifesteal, like hardcore, is tough. In terms of hardcore, I think Lagundo would not be a bad addition to MCC at all. I think he actually fit pretty well, and I feel like he is somewhat familiar, at least, with some of the players in the event. And I think he's also someone who could be very easily paired with groups like Hermitcraft, with the SMP people, and I think he'd fit in and bring a new audience, or at least he'd come from a different audience that I think would work well in MCC. I mean, he's a very Minecrafty Minecrafter, which is why what I'm saying, I will also reiterate this in my Season 4 predictions. MCC is a very Minecrafty Minecrafter event. They need the Minecrafty Minecrafters to be added, and your main group of people that you pick from is going to be YouTube. That's why I think some people like Cookie God would be good. Rec Rap 2 is probably low-key in my top 3 for picks for the event. As much as I really, really love someone like Curryway, Parker would be a bit more of a unique addition. Definitely a lot more experimental in terms of him not knowing as many people. But Parker would be such a great addition to the roster. I'm just going to be real. I mean, Curry would be a phenomenal addition as well, but Parker would be a great addition to the roster. He was at some point, and might still be, my number one quote-unquote lifesteal ad. He's not really in lifesteal anymore, but he would bring both the lifesteal audience, or at least pique the lifesteal audience's interest in terms of MCC, and the modern speedrunning community. What a great combo, you know? That's just such a good combo to introduce to the event. Anyways, this other person, or there's other people in the comments, need a meltdown change. It's practically the same as it was when it was introduced. It's almost been 13 MCCs since then. I don't know if any other game went that long without a change. Meltdown kind of gets away with it because it's slightly randomly generated and fights are so situational. But I can see that, yeah, an update would be nice. I don't really think it's super necessary though. During Dodgeball, we're talking about how they felt Dodgeball has gotten stale. I'm fine with it being there, but it would be interesting to see if Noxer could come up with a new finale. I think Dodgeball will stay. It's just such an iconic game mode. I think there's not really much they should do with it. Build Mart to come back in some form as a consistent game rotation where every game is swapped in and out. The way people stop hating on my favorite game. Obviously, they are biased, but I do think Build Mart being in MCC a little bit more consistently, whether that's just in the non-canons or whether that is as a reworked version being reintroduced into the main events, would be nice. I think Buildmart is good. I think Buildmart is obviously, in terms of all MCC games, on the lower end in terms of quality, but it provides a lot of qualities for the players, a lot of skills that are being tested that are nice and underrepresented in MCC right now, and Buildmart would fill that gap. As much as some people will hate on it, I think it's good to have. So yeah, here's plenty of non-sweat creators. My personal wish list: Sykkuno and Janet and Ryan Higa in the pack. Little bit complicated. I don't think Sykkuno will play in canon MCCs unless he gets a 4-stack of all his friends. It'd have to be something similar to who does Sykkuno now? It'd have to be something like Sykkuno 5-up for sure. Sykkuno 5-up for sure. Maybe like a H-bomb and like another good player for it to even be worth considering, in my opinion. Anyways, let's move on to some different posts. I'm sorry for all the other commenters. If you wanted to have a Wolfeei Mogumel appearance, here you go. Scrolling. That's you. Look at you. Pointing at yourself. Raduns, please and thank you. So true. Moving on. Who do you think will join in Season 4? This is talking about newcomers yet again. I'm really curious now that Season 3 has ended, and I have so many questions to which I want to hear other opinions about, with one of the topics being newcomers. Who do you think will join in Season 4, and who do you want to join in Season 4? I'll go first. I really want to see Raduns and Sandwich Lord in canon MCCs in Season 4, although seeing Jobert join would be funny, but I think someone from QSMP will probably join, although I don't want it. I think, in my honest opinion, I don't think the QSMP members are going to join MCC right now. Unless people like Toby and Phil become more active players, it wouldn't really make sense to introduce the QSMP players to MCC again, because there's very few overlapping players between the QSMP and MCC. I think there's like 5, 6, there might be 6. Let me think. Phil, Toby, Wilbur, Charlie, Nikki, Tina, Foolish, 7. I might be missing something. Quackity, 8. There might be people I'm missing, but it would be hard for them to be introduced to MCC if at least a couple of those people weren't already in the event consistently. And then Raduns and Sandwich Lord in canon MCCs as a wish makes sense. I think that would be good. Sandwich Lord is complicated because he is just so good, and his main content is revolved around being better than other people. Red also is a very competitive person, and if he were to be added to MCC, would probably practice quite hard. He does continuously want to do better and better at Minecraft events, so he would be a threat in MCC. So I don't know how likely it is for them to be added. I think it'd be cool though. It's just a matter of if Scott is aware that they are interested and if he can find a spot for them. Let's see. Realistically, it'll be Rising 2 players plus speedrunners / other competitive Minecraft people, combined with some Hermit Pyres and Friend people, Skiz, Eloise, Kyle, etc. They seem to be the only people interested in joining, but in my heart I want Sykkuno, Lily, Ryan Higa, Janet, other OTV and friends, the pack, and people who generally don't play Minecraft to join. Add in returning players like Wilbur and West, plus Gamerboy80, and you'd have my newcomer wishlist. Hey, very valid, honestly. Hey, it's very valid. I think it would be interesting to get a throwback, not a throwback, to get a patch of returning players where you'd have let's say 8 people from OG MCCs to randomly start being interested again and playing. That'd be pretty interesting. Don't know how much that would help though, but it would mean that there isn't that many newcomers that would need to be added. It would just be refreshing the roster, I guess. To be honest, I don't know many of the people y'all want for MCC. I just want a lot of new faces around. That makes sense. That's fair. Here someone is mentioning a lot of people. Skizzleman would be good. I do agree. Skiz would be a good addition. Jack could be a good addition as well. He knows a couple of people in the event, so that would make sense. Not sure how likely he would be as an addition, but he would fit in pretty well. I think before Jack would get a chance to play, you'd have someone like Eloise join, which I think is going to happen in the first couple events of Season 4. Then next up, Chilled Chaos would be a ton of fun. Yeah, I do agree. Chilled Chaos would be a fun addition. I don't know how many people they actually know. Last time I checked, It is a little, it's not a very large amount, but they are a large creator, and as long as they are willing to team with people they aren't super familiar with, they'd be a good addition. I think they fit the MCC formula in terms of personality, and it'd be good. Next up, Joe Bart. Look, I understand it would be funny to have Joe Bart, but I'll also say this, and this might be a little bit egotistical, but let Block Wars have its unique players, okay? Sometimes, please, come on. As much as I support that Joe would, get a chance to play MCC, if it's not something he's particularly interested in, or if there's not really a reason right now to add him, just let him enjoy Block Wars, let him be a little unique player there. I think it'd be cool to keep him in the roster. I'd be okay with it. Next up, they said Cookie God. Cookie God, I think, would be a good addition. He is also someone who is a competitive player and does like to do really well. They are just a very good Minecraft player. But I think they bring a large audience to the event. They are familiar with a couple people on the YouTube side, and I think they'd be unique. I think they'd be good to have in. Next up, they mentioned Laguna. I already talked about Laguna. I think Laguna would be a pretty solid addition. Iskal rejoining. Look, I'm going to be real. If Iskal isn't in the roster now, I don't think he would come back. Just because Iskal has expressed his interest in rejoining to Scott directly. There has to be a reason he's not in. Maybe timing wasn't right in terms of him being back. Or maybe there's something else up. I genuinely don't really know. It's not really a situation I would involve myself in either way because I'm not familiar with Iskal. But I'm assuming that if Iskal isn't currently in the roster, there's a reason for it. Next up, they mentioned Base Trade. I don't really know who that is. It sounds familiar by name. I just don't remember what they do. Radoons will make the event sweatier and more competitive, but he's great, so I'll accept it. Hey, fair point. I think Red would be a good addition in terms of uniqueness for sure. But like you said, he is a sweat and he is a competitive player. So things would be complicated. Zine would be fun if he enjoyed it. Sure, I could say that. I'm pretty sure Gracie will join in Season 4. I'm not sure if there's anyone confirmed for Season 4. The only person I could think of who might be confirmed is someone like Eloise. If Eloise wants to play, Eloise will get to play. I'll be real. That's just how it works, probably. But I don't know if someone like Grace is super guaranteed. Or at least, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. Skizzleman really is interested. Pretty sure he gets in. Oh, if Skizz wants to play, probably. And then Eloise, yeah, I can agree with that. Let's see what other people say. Skizzleman. I think Season 4 will determine whether MCC keeps going for a while or becomes too redundant. I personally think the entire roster should be revamped to allow for the new generation of active Minecraft content creators to play the game instead of the people who post videos and or streams once every other month. That is a very, very valid point. There's some people in MCC who kind of just do MCC and not really much else, which, hey, I'm not going to blame you for sticking with the thing you probably enjoy most about Minecraft. But I do agree that the creators in MCC, some of them at least, kind of are just MCC players now who do content rather than content creators who play in MCC, if that makes any sense. There's people I could name. I'm not going to. But you'll probably know who I'm talking about. Anyways, let me take another sip of water. Me rambling on so much has dried out my mouth. Anyways. This person says Skizzleman, Tango Tech, and the return of Rendog. Tango is another person I think would be really cool to see in MCC. However, I think he also might be someone who isn't as interested in the competitive aspect of everything. So we'll see. Or maybe he is very competitive. I don't really know. But I don't really know Tango too much aside from I've watched a couple of his decked out streams, but that's about it. Love to see Fit MC. That would be cool. Squid Kid would be cool too. For the content, Alpharad and Rubber Roz, they're not really the Minecrafty Minecrafters. This might sound like copium, but they're more keen to be a Block Wars player, as is proven by Ross already having played a Block Wars event. So yeah. Shirley Curry joins this season clueless. I think it's very likely for Curry to be in. I would be shocked if Curry doesn't get added in 2024. Lifesteal, I could see lifesteal potentially getting added in 2024, but I'm not sure how likely that actually is to happen. Either way, gonna look at the next post now. I've been going for 40 minutes. This is gonna be a huge ass video, but I guess it compensates for the video I posted before, okay? The Illumina one. Look, it's not a video that looks bad on my part, but it's not, like, I don't want to just only upload that on a day. So I'm just gonna give you guys a really good video to compensate, okay? Or a really long video, rather. How can MCC make sure Season 4 isn't the last? Ooh, that's a very good point. I heard people say how they want a new game and more variety of streamers. In my honest opinion, I hope there's new players, but the most wanted players are too strong for the event. Let me know what you want to see in Season 4. I actually know I upvoted this post. So let's look at this post, and this will be the final post we look at for today. My actual personal predictions for MCC Season 4 will come probably in 2 or 3 days, if my schedule fits the way I have currently planned it out. Anyways, for as long as I've been watching, I've seen endless discussion about the identity crisis of MCC, how the event is labeled as being for fun and for everyone, but in practice, the ultra-competitive side is often much more apparent. This is very true, I already mentioned this before. Yeah, MCC is labeled as something everyone can play in, but in reality, it is very Minecraft heavy, which makes sense because it's a Minecraft event. It's the Minecraft event. But yeah, competition has become very apparent, like you said, and it's taken over the whole casual aspect of everything. Casual newcomers can't play a modern canon event without almost definitely getting 40th in Ace Race, for example, which just doesn't feel good and doesn't incentivize the casual players who bring a large audience to come back. I can agree with that. I honestly think taking a page out of Blockwars... Oh, okay, wait, I didn't know this. I honestly think taking a page out of Blockwars' book and having separate events for the sweats and the casual players would help a lot. They tried this a little this year with all the non-canon events in the theory, giving more opportunity for the casual players to do well, but a lot of them, like Rivals and Party, ended up being just as competitive, largely due to how heavy overlapping of a player bases, in my opinion. This might be the reason I have voted. Anyways, they are right. And I've been saying this for a while. It's definitely, like I said, easier said than done, but I vouched that MCC should take the Block Wars Rookies idea, throw their own twist on it if they want to, and run it. They get my permission, and I feel like I'm one of the people who could give you the permission to do it. It would be so cool to see an MCC Rookies. It's like Underdogs, but you take out some of the more Minecrafty people as well. So you just get, like, it's essentially just Underdogs in terms of MCC, but weaker. It's just so cool. I think it would be great for MCC. Obviously, I'm biased because Block Wars Rookies turned out pretty well. It'd be so cool just to see it in MCC. But I do agree with their points on non-canons. I very much appreciate the amount of non-canon events that have been hosted so far for MCC Season 3. I think a lot of them are very unique and they bring something new to the table that MCC had not previously seen, like MCC Twitch Rivals, which is very notable. You see a little picture here on the side of the 5 like commentators, and also some of the like MCC Party, which was a Mario Party-esque MCC event, which just flipped the entire core of the event on its head. It was super interesting to see, and I hope they continue doing that. However, I also think alongside this cool event should be a bit more of a unique and different roster than the regular events. Now, this very much depends on who signs up, obviously, or who signs up, obviously, and this is not really something you can, blame anyone for. However, it'd be nice if there was some extra motivation put into trying to get this unique roster to happen, whether that is by asking the players or telling the players, hey, feel free to just invite a new player if you want to, if you have a fun player in mind, where, someone like Smallent could be brought in by like a Fruitberries, or someone like Chilled Chaos could be brought in by like Kara or Jojo, or someone like Saikuna could be brought in by 5UP, or someone like Jacksepticeye could be brought in by Tommy Innit if he wants to play, right? Whatever, right? Doesn't matter. You get what I mean. Like, you could ask, hey, could you bring a +1 if you want to? Or maybe directly ask some of the players if they were just to be interested in, or just to be available for this time, It's something we do for Block Wars, and I will openly say this. I message probably at least a handful of people almost every single time, just to see if they want to play, to keep things, varied and interesting, etc. Not every event. I didn't ask. Did I ask anyone for Block Wars 9? No, I don't think so. Block Wars 9 was just a coincidental moment. I think for Block Wars 8, I might have asked. I guess I did ask people for Block Wars 9, but that was as a substitution. But regardless, we ask people relatively consistently, not every event, but almost every event, if they want to play. Just, because maybe we get like 40 something signups and we're just like, oh, we have a couple of spots to fill. And we only have like good players left and we need some lower placing players. Let's just ask if people want to play. And it works. It's worked out really well, and, they have a good time. And I think MCC could do that too, or I guess Scott could do that too, but it's fully up to him to decide if he wants to do that. Because I understand not wanting to do that, but it's something we do for Block Wars, and it works. So, could be worth a shot sometime, maybe. Anyways, I do agree. The largely, the heavy overlap of players between the non-canons and the canon events have made the non-canons feel a little bit less special, regardless of how different the gameplay is. If the people playing that gameplay are the same, and that was already an issue before, having a non-canon will help slightly, but it doesn't affect the uniqueness of an event like that as much as it would, or the uniqueness of MCC as much as it would if people like Sykkuno and people like Ludwig were playing it, right? Obviously, maybe they weren't available for the recent events, and that would make a lot of sense, but you never know. Let's see. I think they need to genuinely split these differing identities from each other. Canon events should lean into the competitive angle, inviting some of the fanbase's most heavily requested cracked players like Curry and Wolfeei. Make the canon events a genuine best of the best competition tailored toward the ultra-competitive Minecraft community and MCC Icewoods. That is complicated, okay? Because, yes, on surface level, that sounds like it would make sense, right? Oh yeah, just make the regular events the super sweaty ones, and then the non-canon events the for fun ones. However, what you're going to get then is you're going to get people to realize, you know what? I kind of like the non-canon events more. If I don't sign up for the next regular event, maybe I'll have a higher chance of getting into the non-canons. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have some of the players decide to not sign up for the regular events. And then, for example, a regular event could get 45 signups where they have just enough, and then the non-canons could get 60 signups where they have way too many, and half as many people as are playing are on the bench, which you don't want either of those. You want a middle ground, roughly. Anyways, I need to take a sip of water again. My mouth is drying up really fast. It's not as easy to just say, hey, just split the roster into, or not split the roster, but split the identity of the event into competitive and non-competitive, and just expect people to follow suit. People still want to play the ones that they are most excited about, which if you do it like this, they will want to play in the non-canon events, mostly. And I know this for sure, because it applies to Block Wars as well with rookies. People really want to play in rookies, because rookies is it's the fun one. It's the one where, there's no sweats. But it doesn't work like that. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, And that's why you have to find an equilibrium somewhere to be able to balance out both groups of people who are interested in the same thing. And that's hard. And that's why MCC is how it is right now. They try to find an equilibrium. This is the equilibrium they have so far. Just let everyone into everything, and then you're solid, I guess, at least internally. The public might not agree, but internally you're solid. Let me take a sip of drink real quick. All right, so funnily enough, this this video might be an hour long. I've only gotten halfway through this post, and I think it took 10 minutes. All right, moving on. I think they need to, on the flip side, I feel non-canon needs some major changes too. Fun, Twist, Like, and Scuffed and Party were great, but don't diminish the actual issue. Non-canon should have little to none of the typical top players. The ones that steal all the nice, satisfying coins all the other players will want. Make non-canons so that players like CPK or Joel are the strongest players there, and encourage a lot more newcomers to join in and actually want to continue participating because they had fun and are happy with their performance. I think that's a really good idea. But like I said, it's hard to do. This is an easier solution, I guess, than the previous suggestion of just having essentially 2 different rosters, almost. It's not exactly what they said, but that's what they probably mean. Making the non-canons have almost none of the, let's say, S tiers, right? That's the easiest term. Almost none of the S tiers, like Purpled, Shane, Fruit, Sapnap, Pete, Jojo, etc. There's many more, obviously. Would make it easier to play around with non-canon events and make the roster more unique. However, some of these really high-skilled players are some of the connecting pieces between MCC and some of the more outsider players, like someone like like Puns, for example, could be the connection of like a Valorant-esque player who's like a variety creator. Let's say like this is definitely a very, very crazy example, but let's say like Pokimane, right? If Pokimane was potentially on the table to be reintroduced to MCC and play another MCC, she'd probably want people that she's familiar with. And hypothetically, if Puns was one of her strongest connections, which it might be, if hypothetically Puns is one of her strongest connections to the roster in MCC, you'd probably want Puns to be in if Pokimane can also play. But then you have the argument of, well, if Puns gets to play and he's in S tier, why doesn't Fruitberries get to play? Why doesn't Purple get to play? And then it's a very wiggly line of where do you cut the players off, and how does everything work? Obviously, very specific example, but yeah, another example. Let's just we can just take the craziest example, Purpled. What if Mr. Beast wants to play and he wants to play with Purpled? Boom, problem. Well, how do you fix it? Don't know. You can't just say, well, the S tiers can't play, because then you lose Mr. Beast. That's the logic. Anyways, I do think it would be really cool to see Callum or Joel be like the strongest statistical players in an event, but it's hard to pull off. You'd have something like Underdogs where if you take out Shane, you would accomplish something like that. But I don't know. Could be good. Could be fun. I think they just need to do another Underdogs. I'm biased for sure, but like Underdogs is so cool. It'd be so nice, and it's so easy to introduce some of the more outsider newcomers to the event, like a small ant, where you can just be like, "Hey man, you can play because you haven't played the event yet. You haven't won yet." Anyways, on the note of newcomers, why is the event still so exclusive? It doesn't make sense anymore, honestly. We can see the player base declining, and we, on the subreddit, keep great track of all the players that express interest in joining. Why not open it up so much more, make it a bigger distinction between canon and non-canon? Competitive and non-competitive could easily allow for 2 different rosters. There are still many big streamers out there who do want to play MCC and can bring a big audience with them. Small ant come to mind first, but just don't seem to ever be invited for reasons that are beyond me. I think the community is slightly delusional, because someone like Small Ant obviously has shown interest in playing, but the way Scott handles things, it has to go through him, and he cannot take information like someone on the Reddit saying Small Ant wants to play and run with it. He'd need to know directly from Small Ant, whether that is a clip from his Twitch channel that he ends up seeing, whether that is Small Ant DMing Scott directly. That is the way he'll know for sure that this person is interested. Because what Scott wouldn't want, and this applies to me as well, he wouldn't want to reach out to someone expecting them to want to play, and then upon inviting them, they're like, "What is that?" Like you wouldn't want that to happen. You want to have certainty in your invite for newcomers that they want to play, and especially for someone like Small Ant, it would be nice if you knew whether or not they were going to plan to be a recurring player, because as much as it would be nice to have that like couple thousand extra viewers from Small Ant for one event, it'd be much nicer to have him consistently return, especially if he fits into the roster, which I think does apply. Anyways, I can agree that MCC should potentially be less exclusive, but that's also a little bit vague, because You have stuff like MCC 31, I think, which is the one with the Spanish team, where seemingly, hey, you can just have two new players come out of thin air to fill in two Spanish slots, or you could have Michaela just be a substitute for Amy when Michaela previously wasn't a recurrent player. Stuff like that. Doesn't feel super exclusive, right? But then on the flip side, what happened to the newcomers? Like, why can't there be more newcomers? It's a very tough. It's very hard to know for sure why things are the way they are. The most simple answer, and that's the answer I've also been told by some of the people who would know, is things are just complicated. You can't let loose on one element of the event or one aspect of the event without also having to let loose on the other aspects, right? Because if we say like, it might be a hard example. If we say like, you know what, open the floodgates, let in a bunch of newcomers, then they're going to be like, okay, well, if we can have so many newcomers, why can't we have so many new games? You know, if this was a problem before, why can't this other problem be solved? It's not not the best comparison, but it could be a problem. Anyways, ignore what I just said. In conclusion, I believe and hope that MCC can see a future beyond Season 4, but I think the event needs some overhauling to get there. I agree, including diminishing the exclusivity of the roster and the separation of competitive from casual, letting both experience be their own thing that doesn't hamper the other. Fair enough. Yeah. I hope MCC will continue beyond 2024, Season 4, whatever. Whichever one is the one that lasts the longest. I hope there's a long future for MCC. More especially, I hope they can hold on to whenever the next boom of micro popularity is, so they can be one of the front runners to carry that on, whether that is by introducing some of the new faces or whatnot, right? However, things are complicated, and as much as I agree with your points, and I agree that if those things happened at surface value, MCC would look brighter into its future, in the back end and in conclusion, or as a result of some of these changes, problems would occur that would be not necessarily worse than the current situation, but they would be complicated to figure out. And once you invite someone to the event, you can't really revert it. So if they cause a problem in terms of competitiveness, you're done. Yeah, you're done. You know, it's over. And this is something we've noticed with Blockers as well, where because we have so many good players, we can't just be like, you know what, you never get to play again. No, you're gonna have to find a way to put these people in every now and then, and it's hard. Anyways, this was an hour pretty much of me rambling about your guys' predictions for Season 4 or your wishes. I say your guys'. It was like 10 people, including the comments that I looked at, but there's just so much to talk about. I will make my proper MCC Season 4 predictions in the following days, probably early next week. But like I said before, I will need to do my proper research to get a full understanding of this current situation of MCC and my opinion on what could potentially happen and what I think will happen. Anyways, thank you all for watching. If you're somehow still here at the end of this video, after 58 minutes of me talking, put a little, let me think, put a I love Wolfeei Mogamil with a little giraffe emoji next to it. That's how I'll know that it's unique and that you guys did it, and I'll for sure give you a little heart or a thumbs up or whatever in the comments. Thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow again with a probably much shorter episode of Wolfeei Mogamil Daily December. This was Daily December, day number 16. Thank you for watching. See you later. Goodbye.